Hello everyone, my name is Sola Abulu. I'm the principal consultant of Sola Abulu and Associates. This is a video still on our series of crisis management. If you have been keeping up with us with these videos, thank you. and I hope you'll enjoy this one as well. So this is going to be a very short video. Again, we're talking about crisis management. I'm just trying to shed a bit of light on the fact that in crisis management, different sorts of skills are required, different things are required, and there are different aspects of the profession that are necessary. It's important for us to say this because I think sometimes people focus on what is familiar to them. So when they're doing crisis management, they tend to maybe focus on media, some stakeholder engagement, some on social media, and internal, some things are forgotten, let's put it that way. So we're going to be trying to do a series, God helping us, where we can talk about all the things that you should think about in crisis management, particularly in a strategic comms perspective. So again, this was a document that we put together in May 2026. I'm now doing a video on this just to explain. And you see the way we're doing Sola Abulu and Associates. We are a strategic communications consulting and training firm. We share a lot of knowledge. We are very much a knowledge brand. So we produce all this content in different forms. So if you're a PDF person, you'll find the PDF version of this in LinkedIn. If you require a tutorial, you come in here. That's the way it is. And then we do the short videos for the people who are just like, just give me 30 seconds, and then yeah. So anyway, so we're going to talk about the role of internal communications in crisis management. It's going to be a very short video. So first of all, internal communications is the first and the most important line of defense in crisis management for a major brand or a major organization. This is important, whether public sector, private sector, NGO, faith-based, whatever it may be. If there's a crisis that is going on, and of course, our definition of crisis is something that affects not only people, environment, or assets, but is affecting your reputation, is actually affecting your license to operate. In other words, your fundamental credibility, or the, how would I say, the right to operate in a place, or the moral or the societal acceptance that you need to function is being questioned or being threatened, and stakeholders are being very agitated. All the people that are your friends, allies, advocates, and then you're even getting adversaries. Yeah, beginnings of a crisis. So let's gotten that definition out of the way. So the first thing you need to do is, first of all, close the ranks. You cannot be managing a crisis outside and also be managing crisis inside. If the inside doesn't hold together in a crisis, everything is going to fall. So the first thing is that you first have to strengthen internal alignment on the nature of the problem, call people together. First of all, get your team, management, CMT, a crisis management team, and then they say, okay, what exactly is going on? What's the scope? What's the scale? What's the impact? And that needs to be taken, and then get the organization rallied together. If you've had a crisis management framework in place and you have training, it's easier to do this. And then just let people know this is what we need to be doing. And then you make sure that you transmit message to everybody in the organization. Of course, the bigger your organization is, the more needs to be done. But even if you're a small organization, so long as that crisis is playing out in public space or is affecting you, let's assume something has happened and they've sealed your office space, you have to tell your staff what's going on and say, look, this is what's going on. We're working it out with the authorities. Don't come to work. You have to, or if customers, those of you that are have interface with the customers, this is what we're going to be telling them. That's the first thing you have to do. Of course, you also have to tell them how to manage it if press is, the common contact with press. But closing the ranks is number one, even before you go to the press, to a very large extent. Number two, you ensure that the employees and all the internal stakeholders have all the necessary support to assist with maintaining goodwill throughout the duration of the crisis. So assuming this is something, maybe a 24-hour crisis, it may be a prolonged one. So you don't need to tell them everything because, of course, there may be some things that are confidential and being managed at the leadership level. But the information that they need to assist with maintaining goodwill. In other words, if I'm interfacing with customers, I'm interfacing with regulators, at least give me the information that I need to be able to respond to questions that come from those people, because these are people that I normally have relationship with. If I'm interfacing with members of the public, I should have messaging, approved messaging, so that we can help to keep those people assured and stable while we're still managing the crisis. Don't give space for the internal crisis to further aggravate the situation. You are keeping people out of the loop. You're not sharing the details of what's going on. You don't have to go into details, but at least a high level guidance on this is what's going on, this is how we're managing it, and this is what we can say and we can communicate externally at this time. So trust building, which is a very important part of crisis resolution, crisis repair, crisis remediation, but it has to start from inside. So you start building trust within the organization, because this will help build crisis resilience and external credibility. Why do I say this? Because sometimes when some of these things happen, I kid you not, the employees are looking at you Eyes are on you, boss. That are you sure you're telling us the truth? How did we get in this kind of situation? Shouldn't how did you how did you miss this? Why are we here? So you have to be able to communicate to them that you have done everything reasonably possible to have avoided this. It has still happened, and that even now that you're doing it, you are on top of it and you're managing it. So you have that. If don't take the worst mistake you can make, particularly if you're a big organization, is to take your employees for granted and think that they don't have a choice and they're on side. Don't do that, because they may not say things to your face, but once people begin to hear those comments behind the scenes from them, it's all it's over. You know what I was saying? It's just a matter of time, you know. So that's the first thing you have to build trust, and it starts from within. Business continuity, of course, the business must continue if you're allowed to continue. If it's a case of a complete shutdown by either by the authorities, of course, then you can't continue. But then there must be some things that you will still be doing, you know, behind the scenes. There may be commitments that need to be made, you know, maybe payments or investments or some sort of operations, even though they may be limited. It may even be just helping to respond to the crisis. Maybe there are legal proceedings ongoing. So you have to really help to provide that psychological safety for people to say, you know, despite what is going on, we're going to be able to continue operations in this area. Maybe these operations in this area will stop, but these particular operations will continue, and we will still be able to meet our commitments to our employees. You know, provide that confidence building. We have this assurance, so we're doing, we're engaging. You have to be able to do that. Don't allow employees to be left. Don't allow an information vacuum. You're able to provide direction and stability. And corporate comms or organizational comms or communications is a very integral part of this, because you are the one that's going to be crafting those messaging. You are the one that will have to many times let management know that you need that messaging. You have to have your pulse on the temperature of the organization and know that, you know, if they're not getting enough or they haven't gotten what they need yet, and help to ensure that the information that is coming out is such that provides that assurance and that psychological safety, particularly if you still need a lot of those employees to help you, like they're still contributing to make things, to keep things going during this time. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's very, very important. Again, damage control. Internal communications helps to contain and control the negative impacts during a crisis. It counters the rumor mill. Because if you're able to counter the rumor mill internally, then you are better positioned to be able to manage the narrative externally. But if within your organization, your employees too don't even know what's going on, they don't have any approved messaging or anything that is credible to say, or what you've told them does not even make any sense, the gist will grow, the rumor mill will thrive, and it will mitigate, you know, it will not mitigate the growth of harmful, you'll not be able to prevent the growth of harmful narrative, and that will further disrupt and escalate the situation. I know this because when I worked in a big organization and things happen, people would always call me to check what's going on. They would read what's going on in the media statements, they would read, you know, the narrative that is being put out there, but they will check with friends and family. And it's what the friends and family say to them, what I say to them, that's what they will believe. If I align what you said outside, they will be like, I've checked with a friend. Nobody makes their opinion 100% based on what is being said in the press release if they are able to get what they believe to be a more authentic piece of information. So make sure that the employees, internal stakeholders, internal employees have all the information and the approved high level messaging that is required to be able to respond and counter the rumor mill. That means whatever messaging you are sharing is able to respond to the most likely questions, the contentious issues that are out there in the public space. You know, high level responses. You don't have to go into details. I'm not saying expose everything, whether things that you should not say, but we're dealing with this. This is how this came about to be. Correct any what this has been, you know, the elements that are non-factual, that are inaccurate, clarify and say what the true station is. Keep it very high level, but ensure that it addresses all of the key issues that are being raised, particularly the most harmful narratives. Again, transparency. Internal comms provides the opportunity for leadership to tell their own side of the story. I alluded to that in what I just said right now. When crisis happens, particularly if it is one that came out of something maybe regulatory, commercial, something that happened, you know, staff, there's a bit of skepticism at the beginning that, okay, you know, what really happened here? So do not allow that external narrative to drive. And external, if it's a real crisis, it's very likely that a very harmful, a very dangerous, and sometimes malicious narrative is actually brewing outside. But don't allow that to now drive the sentiment within the organization, because then you're going to be fighting two enemies. There is going to be the damaging and harmful narrative outside, and then if it then takes root inside, at which point that's going to be really crazy, because then you don't even have internal credibility, and it's to be very difficult for you to get external credibility from outside of the organization. So build that internal credibility. And I've seen this play out. I don't want to mention it, but I've seen this play out where in the public domain, we've seen some companies go through some very difficult times, and we've seen that their staff have been, you can see that the staff is behind the management. So things have been done. It has management of the crisis, and that's why that was being done, and that's commendable. It comes professionals should always make sure that that's being done. So consistency of messaging is also a key one, and that's the seventh point that I'll rest this on. Internal comms enables the organization to drive consistency of messaging. So you ensure that the same narrative that you are socializing within the organization is also what you are communicating externally to the media. It's a big mistake for you to be saying one thing inside and another thing outside, because there's no difference between internal and external. Social media has, has made that very clear. And we've seen that. We've seen internal memos leak, not just in our part of the world, all over the world. You have no idea, even when you are talking whether they're going to go out. So you had better make sure that what you tell them is the same thing as what you're going to say in the press conference tomorrow. And ideally, the way we actually, depending on how sensitive the issue is, one best practice way of handling it is making sure that when press statements are going out, internal comms at the same time. If it's a big organization, it's a very sensitive issue, you should be aligning it. Just treat under a crisis situation, any internal memo sent to staff is as good as a press release. If the situation is that sensitive, it will be leaked. It will only be leaked if it's not sensitive or the rest of the world is not interested. If we're interested, it will be leaked. So it's better you align it as it's going to internal staff, as in all staff, it's also going to the media at the same time. And it's doable. I've worked in an organization where we handle things that way. So that's it for this video. This is really just making sure a lot of people who do not really factor in internal communications as a strong part. It's not an intuitive thing. You have to be a crisis management trained and knowledgeable person to do this. Most people will just think, oh, media response, just let the comms team and let the leadership. They may not realize that they need to rally the troops around, and that's what internal comms will help you do. So yeah, so that's it. Video with management trade. If you'd like to learn more about internal comms, use of internal comms and crisis management, you can enroll your team for a play on demand course coming up on the 30th of July. Video form. Or if you can't make that particular live online class, which yours truly will be taking the class from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. West Africa time on the 30th of July, it's a Thursday, then you can also enroll immediately, like now, on Sola Abulu Associates, where we have our play on demand trainings, which are accessible from anywhere in the world, at any time. It's exactly the same training. We have 4 modules going through. Module 1, and you get the same thing. You also have the opportunity to ask questions on the platform. I will also answer the question.